So President Cyril Ramaphosa has delivered the opening of Parliament address to outline the priorities of the 7th administration. To speak to us about whether Ramaphosa lived up to the nation's expectations, we are joined by ANC NEC member and acting spokesperson Zuko Godlimpi. Mr. Godlimpi, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I think obviously there's a lot to look at, a lot that's come out of the president, but I think your initial tone, and as briefly as you possibly can, about how well the president did, and did he represent the ANC sufficiently?
Absolutely sufficiently. The president outlined the program of government, which is reflective of the statement of intent signed by the GNU partners, also reflective of the 6 key priorities of the ANC manifesto. And the president importantly highlighted that going forward, we will be working with society around the national dialogue to concretize a national agreement on the issues that are facing South Africa and what each social partner is prepared to do to help get South Africa to a level that everyone will be happy with.
Yeah, but a few things stand out, though, in that address, right? And I think one of them, and you even touch on the ANC's manifesto, for instance, and how he's lived up to that. But there seems to be some, I suppose, contestation over the National Health Insurance bill. And there is a sense that the president has done a U-turn on the NHI. How are you interpreting this? And why do a U-turn right after the elections at that opening of Parliament address when prior to it the bill was signed and we were certainly talking about moving forward? Was that campaigning?
No, the president didn't do any U-turn. I think people who say that did not listen to exactly what the president was saying. The president said there are areas of disagreement between the ANC and the other partners of the GNU, but what that means is that the areas of refinement that people are concerned about will be raised, and that's on par with how policy works in general. So the president was saying all of us agree about the importance of universal health care, and all of us agree about the need to extend access to healthcare for all South Africans. There might be disagreements about the funding model, for instance, but it doesn't take away the fact that universal healthcare is on the table. We will press ahead with that. We're not pulling back. The NHI is law. It is now a matter of working on the implementation plan of the NHI. That is where discussions might be had. In any case, even the other GNU partners have expressed the point that they're not opposed to universal healthcare. They disagreed with the ANC on the NHI on specific issues regarding the financial model of it. But in principle, it cannot be faulted. So the same holds about basic education, for instance. There are issues that they would have disagreed with us on about this or that matter, but it doesn't mean we're going to walk back on those. Where there is still scope to discuss an implementation strategy or plan that everybody can come along with, those issues will always be on the table for discussion.
Okay, I'll take that. And then I think one of the key ones, of course, is the next step where the national dialogue is concerned, right? I think that it's a very important moment in the formation of the 7th administration, Mr. Godlimpi. What do you want to see that look like? And what the outcomes really the ANC would want to see coming out of that national dialogue?
So the starting point is that you want the national dialogue to reflect the broadest cross-section of South Africa. And so the stakeholder makeup of the national dialogue has got to be as highly representative as possible. We want to see social movements in there. We want to see community organizations. We want to see the clergy being in there. We want the trade union movement in there. We want the student movement in there. We want the business sector. We want virtually all sections of society to come in. And people must express the strategic areas of concern that they have about South Africa's direction. They must outline key proposals about how they think the country should be taken forward. But they must also commit themselves to specific national tasks that they, as that particular stakeholder or sector, are willing to carry out in order to realize this dream. For instance, business must commit to increased levels of investment. Government will commit itself to a better infrastructure rollout to guarantee stability for investment. The labor movement must commit itself to particular outcomes in relation to labor performance and a pact about how remuneration conversations will be had going forward. The clergy must commit itself to social activism in relation to matters of crime, to matters of social engagement in community. So we want that sort of of broad stakeholder conversation to be the underlying theme of the national dialogue.
You know, there was a piece that was written this week by KBC in Lekyan, and I don't know if you were able to see it. It was published on the 17th of July, and one of the things that he certainly has talked about in this formation of this government of national unity is the importance of relations between the political parties as they take instruction from the top and into the various cabinet positions that some of these political parties hold, right? You've got, for instance, Soli Maladzi, who is the Minister of Communications, as deputy being Mondli Gungubela of the ANC. What is the instruction from the ANC and certainly from the leadership, and even what you hear from the president on how those relations need to be working at a cabinet level, and lessons that we've learned about difficulty where that is concerned?
Look, so far it's been good. I think everyone has demonstrated a great deal of maturity and preparedness to work together. So the camaraderie is good. In fact, the example of Soli Maladzi and is quite instructive. They have a very good rapport. It's almost like a father and son arrangement, but also with the senior one being prepared to take leadership from the younger one. The key issue is that these ministries are not running on the basis of sealed mandates from different political parties, right? So areas of consternation are limited by the fact that they are all working on the basis of an agreed upon statement of intent, which outlines what key policy priorities each department is going to be dealing with. So on that front, we are quite comfortable. It is, of course, also a major opportunity that we must leverage. As I was saying, political parties in South Africa have routinely screamed at each other on matters of policy and hardly had a dialogue when they sit around the table and actually comb out the technical areas of disagreement or outline the strategic areas of disagreement. What the GNU then offers us is a no-escape framework where you cannot avoid but to have that hard conversation with a member of an opposition party, with the understanding that both of you are now bound together to come out with a policy outcome that South Africans must believe in and work around. So in that sense, yes, there's no room for screaming, but you are going to have to talk it out in a mature and sensible manner and come up with a workable plan for it.
Yeah, there's no room for hardy-does. That's how I interpret that.
No room for hardy-does.
Okay, let me, and we'll get back to the hardy-does, but I want to talk a little bit about ANC matters, if you'll allow me. A big one, of course, is going to be relations with the ANC, and now former President Jacob Zuma snubbed by the former president this Wednesday in that disciplinary hearing. Will you be allowing the former president a disciplinary hearing in person? He's calling for transparency, wanting the country to see that process.
We already issued a statement to that effect on Thursday. So the disciplinary hearing did sit on Wednesday, and the representative of the former president did come and make, representations.
Yes.
And the disciplinary committee did provide a ruling on 3 issues. So the first one was that the disciplinary hearing is going to continue being virtual on Tuesday, the 23rd at 10 o'clock. The second issue was that there was a pre-hearing conference yesterday, which was requested by the representative of former President Jacob Zuma. The third issue is that it will not be open to members of the public and the media. And this is consistent with how the ANC has always run its disciplinary hearings. They are not open to the public because the matters under discussion and who makes what argument must be protected. Each person must go there and make a representation under the comfortability that they are not under the glare of the public. There's never been a disciplinary hearing of the ANC that was held on the streets. It's not going to start now. That one is not going to happen. It's going to be virtual, and then the outcome is going to be announced when the entire process is done.
Why would you deny him having it in person?
Look, the discussion about it being virtual didn't start yesterday or the other day. It started when it was postponed before elections, and there was no protestation on their part. The ANC doesn't deny anybody being in person or not, but the technicality of who sits where at the same time is a function of the availability of all the people who are going to be presiding over the hearing from the side of the National Disciplinary Committee. The second issue is the reality that when the ANC did say it would be in person, there was an open mobilization to flood Luthuli House at the time. And the person charged did not say anything to dissuade the people who said they are going to march to Luthuli House if that were to happen. So from a rational security point of view, the ANC has got to consider about the implications of such a standoff, because once you have a political party, an opposition political party saying they are going to march outside Luthuli House, and then you might have a dangerous situation where other people want to have a counter march, and the ANC cannot put itself in a position where it creates such a situation.
Yeah. Just lastly, before I speak to you, and I think this is a really great way for us to wrap up the week, right? You also had Solima Paila of the SACP raising some contention around this makeup of this government of national unity, saying that it is now dominated by neoliberals. What is their interaction at the moment with the SACP and the ANC?
Well, the ANC has kept an open channel with the SACP. In fact, I myself was in the Central Committee of the South African Communist Party alongside the Secretary General on the 29th of June, where the ANC provided an update explanation about where the process was and the rationale behind the GNU approach as opposed to any bipartisan pact with any political party. As far as the ANC is concerned, the SACP officially understands the position of the ANC, accepted the logic of the ANC, provided commentary about areas of concern. I just also want to make the point that it's disingenuous to claim that there is a dominance of neoliberals. If we take the total makeup of the cabinet, the DA has what, 6 ministers and 6 deputy ministers out of a total of how many? About 54 people. So in what world would you say that is dominated by the Democratic Alliance? Unless the argument is that all of us who are in that arrangement are incapable of making arguments that can overrun the thinking of 6 people. So it's a disingenuous argument. But of course, the ANC will always keep the door open to have a conversation with its alliance partners. We're not going to, of course, respond to any and everything that is said on the streets, but when comrades of the ANC and the alliance have issues that they want to raise, we're pretty much open to that. Just as I'm saying, the Secretary General did address the Central Committee of the SACP, outlining what the issues are, what the ANC strategic thinking is, and what are the tactical options on the table. And as far as the ANC officially understands, the South African Communist Party supports the strategy of a GNU with all the implications that it comes with, including the risks politically that are attached to it. But everybody committed to working on getting the ANC to maintain a strategic advantage in the long run.
All right. Yeah, well, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. The only question now that remains is who are the weaver birds, the hardy-dars, and the vultures? But I'll let the viewers respond to that one, right? And you're more than welcome to send us an X at Newzroom 405. Thanks for your time. ANC NEC member and acting spokesperson there, Zuko Godlimpi.